I'd like to welcome everyone to today's show of Truth, the reality under the headline. Today's guest, we have a special guest. He's welcomed us to his shit show, Sergeant John Hall. And, today we're just going to go over, keep it light today, have an open discussion. John will, share with us, some of the things that, he does in his personal life that kind of keeps the chaos from the job, at an even keel. Shares the dark humor that many of us have that kind of keeps things light for us, in a world of all the different shit we see. John, how's it going today? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. How you doing today? How you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. I've been busy. I work today, but I've been busy. But it's nice to sit down and chill out.
Yeah. So, because if I'm not mistaken, I know one of the different conversations we had in the past was in regard to like your travel time to work. You get the lack of the sleep and everything else, but then also that travel time actually, going into, the station and everything too. So,
well, it's about a 45-minute drive, so that does play into it. But I do have a room at the police department, with not a jail cell. It has a twin bed. that would be, but it does help. But at the same time, say Tuesday, I was up at 10:30. I don't go into work till 4:30. Just awake, can't sleep. So really sleeping there didn't even help any. So you just deal with it as it comes.
Kind of like the fire department, just kind of wake up, go to work.
Yeah. Hurry up and wait.
I know, right? So how's everything going with losing dispatch, losing Kayla?
It's it's kind of rough. Me and her worked together for I think 5 years. We worked well together. We knew each other. Had a lot of the same interests and humor, and that's kind of tough to come by in this line of work. It sucks, but at the same time, I'm proud that she has another opportunity that really has more potential than our dispatch does. There's just no real opportunity for raises and advancement in our department with that. This already has more potential than our dispatch does.
And especially with dispatch, it's already a profession of which that, there's a lot of oversight as far as, civilian sector understanding the capacity in which somebody that, fulfills that role as dispatch, and how large their role plays into the effectiveness of any first responders, response time and the outcomes. So it's.
Oh, and it frustrates me. Sorry.
There you go. You need to get your a portrait put onto that "Welcome to the Shit Show" banner in the back there.
I do, but every job has change eventually, and you just have to deal with it. I'm in a better position to, already financially. At a younger age, it's really hard to make it with what they make. Dispatch is not nearly as appreciated financially or otherwise, than they are. They're a lot of people look, dispatch. They take a call, they give it to the officer. Yeah, they do, but they do a lot more other stuff. They have medical calls, they have tornado alarms they have to be on top of. Everything they do has a different way that they have to efficiently do this, and it can be so much as some bad info or some lacking info that can mean our health and safety when we go to a call. Just something as small as, is there weapons involved? We have a domestic, it's a physical, that's all. I didn't know that he stabbed her with a knife before I got there. That makes a big
that medical conditions as well too.
Yeah, yeah. They don't get near as much appreciation as they do. I mean, I don't care what people say. They just don't understand it unless they've done it.
Was he stabbed before or after I was dispatched? He's got a knife hanging out of his abdomen.
Exactly. You know, was it this offender you've told me is happening? Was this another person that stabbed him? I mean,
The shit show.
anybody that is in this line of work will understand that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's, and you got to take it with a grain of salt. That's why I love, the different things that you do, the masks that you make, and your Baby Yoda pinhead. Now, did you make that one, or is that one that?
That's one actually. I found it. I was like, man, I can't pass it up. It was a good price. I couldn't pass it up. And I mentioned to you before, I want to show you this. It's something small, but I thought it was really cool, and I couldn't pass up on. I want to show you and see if you can kind of figure it out, or what you think about it. It's just this little bitty table.
It's like a little puzzle.
It is. It's a floating table. You've got the one here and the one here.
I'd like to have one life size like that.
Yeah. I mean, I love this thing. It's like it just confuses you, but it's a really cool centerpiece, and I like that kind of stuff. It kind of makes you think, and which is really what you need to keep doing with this job. You need to keep your mind working, keep thinking. Once you get complacent, once you get bored, that's when things can go south, because you just, man, this is the same old thing. I'm used to it. Nothing's new. Nothing's going to be different. You just don't, you lose that sharpness.
What's that mask? It's up on that top, right next to the banner, the black one with the white.
This is one I actually made. It's a Jason mask, but it's a police mask. And it has police in the middle with a blue line. It says, if you haven't served, you wouldn't understand. I mean, true or spoken.
How many of the masks that you have were made opposed to?
Oh man, I have as far as painted, right now I've probably got 5 or 6 that I'm kind of proud of. Others I've worked on, played with. I had about 12 of them that I was really proud of, and when I moved, somehow they got lost. I don't know if they got through into a pile that was supposed to be garbage and wasn't supposed to be, or I've never found them. So now I'm kind of trying to recreate ones that I had that I really liked. And it's a slow go. I mean, some of these, I did it before. I was so proud of, and now that I try to redo it, I'm like, man, what process did I use? It's hard to think about, but I'm working on it. Same thing with the keep your mind busy.
And material, the type of material, the canvas, I guess you could call it, that you're working with, plays a large role in it too, and how the paint takes, how it there's a lot of different factors that go into going from one to the other. Like you take the Jason hockey mask, and then you take it over to one that's the actual cloth masks that you were doing. It's a whole different canvas that you're working on. So getting that method down sometimes isn't going to work for the other.
It is, and I'll show you something. I don't really have one to compare the real thing, but I've got to where I made some burlap mask. Like I've actually made the burlap mask myself, and they're, for a lot of people they are kind of weird. But what's the point in making normal stuff? Everybody knows it. There's no interest in it. And this guy is the one that it's based off of, and I love this guy. This goofy, just scarecrow looking. I love him. But I made my own mask, and this one's kind of based off of it. And
you made the mask, or you painted it? You made it from scratch?
I took a normal flimsy piece of burlap and made that out of it.
How'd you get the form fit on it?
There's a certain kind of paste you can use that when it dries, it hardens and makes it. But when you're doing it, you have to make the shape of the mask as you go to make sure it takes. And this one's kind of hard to see, but it's little stuff like the nose. You have to make sure that contour is there, or it's not going to, be there whenever it dries. You have to the head of it. You have to make sure it's right. There's more to it than just throwing some paint on it or some glue on it and throwing it on something and making it.
Almost like Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it is. And they're based on a mask from Slipknot. Probably not a lot of people are going to know them. They're a heavy metal band. They all wear masks. And one of his masks, it's pretty creepy looking, but it's based on the same mask. And I tried to make it kind of towards what he made it. And that's this one. And this one's a lot creepier looking, but it was also made from just a flat, flimsy piece of burlap. And it's, some of those really, they do look kind of creepy. They do look weird, but it's the fact that I made them from scratch. I made them from something that was nothing. And, I really don't care what people think about it. I've accomplished by doing it. I mean, I've accomplished it. Everybody have different accomplishments that they're proud of. Some is making weird ass masks, but hey, I did it. It was me.
You should make the subjects or the offenders wear them down to the station.
Yeah.
they're right as shame. Here, put the mask on.
Some of these people I deal with, these drunks or on certain drugs, all I would have to do is go to the back, throw one of these on, and walk back out and just interrupt myself with what happens next.
That's awesome. And how long have you been doing the whole, not just making them, but like the collection as well?
I want to say I started about 2 years ago. And it started with, weird as it sounds, my 6-year-old, he was probably 4 or 5. Don't ask me how I got into it, but it had to do with him discovering Jason Voorhees. I think it was Jason, then it was maybe it was the mask. The mask got him. He didn't, for anybody watching, he didn't watch the movies. He doesn't know exactly what happened, the gory part, but he liked the mask. Same with Slipknot, a heavy metal band. He liked the mask before he ever got into the music. And somehow it got me into making the Jason mask. I got into collecting the Slipknot mask because of him, because he liked them. And then I finally started actually making my own. And I would love to start actually sculpting and making my own unique mask, but it's just a kind of a jump in finances to start that kind of thing. And as well as I do, my free time is pretty limited. But I also did, I used to play guitar when I was high school, 16, 17, 18. I kind of got discouraged because I couldn't get a band started. The area I live in is pretty rural, so it's kind of hard anyways. But I got discouraged. I quit. I sold all my equipment, which was a lot. But in the last couple of months, I bought another guitar and I picked it up and I started playing it again. So I'm kind of trying to start doing some more hobbies with the time I do have and kind of be productive in that, rather than I go to work, I come home, I clean, I go to bed, I get up, I've got Ethan, I go to bed, I'm back at work, I clean. And, it's some variance in my routine. Maybe not a lot, but it still makes a difference.
Learn something new every day. You play acoustic, or what guitar?
I bought an acoustic a long time ago, trying to get back into it. And in all honesty, acoustic is a big jump to try to relearn stuff. It's harder to play. People that don't know guitar, doesn't make sense, but it's harder to play. I bought
So many
a
more sounds out of each chord.
it does, and it's hard to explain. Pushing down on those strings wears out your fingers. An acoustic is harder to play. You have to push more pressure on those strings. It wears on your fingers more. It's harder to make the correct sounds than it is an electric. So this was my train of thought. I was wrong, but I found a kit on Amazon, $200. It had the guitar, it had a little amp, a bag. I'm gonna start trying to relearn guitar. This is all I need. It's a guitar, it's an amp. I'm good. No, I wasn't.
We all sound good to ourselves, right? Until somebody else listens, like, what the fuck is that?
Hey, this is what I need until you have it. I could do better than that. I ended up buying a more expensive guitar, a more expensive amp, but I'm happy with it. And but it's an electric guitar. I'm big into rock and metal, but at the same time, I'm trying to learn more basic stuff, to get better at everything I can play, rather than just going in, playing some heavy distorted, you can't tell what I'm doing kind of thing. I'm trying to learn my basics, more than I can progress off of it and be a better player. That's one thing with Kayla. I could kind of, on our downtime, I could bring a guitar in there and play for 10, 15 minutes. And she likes the same kind of music I do. So it's like, oh yeah, I know that song. You should learn this song. Hey, I like that song. We'll do that. And and that's not really there anymore. It's not going to discourage me from playing, but that part kind of sucks. My kind of support at the time is gone. So
without a sideline, it does make it hard though. It's kind of going back into like the band. It's like, if I can't share my musical talent or share any of my talents for that matter with somebody, it goes to waste just as much. Like you said, you kind of get discouraged because, hey, I can't start the band. I can't show my talents, make use of my talents. So it's like everything just goes to nothing.
It does. And it helps a lot more when you have somebody there in person that appreciates and understands what you're trying to do. I can sit here and play at home, but I only have so much motivation. When I have somebody going, yeah, I like that song. That sounds good. Keep going. It means a lot more than me sitting here going, I'm trying to play this song, but I'm messing it up. I'm tired of this shit. I'm gonna take a break, and that break ends up being all night long. It does help, when somebody appreciates it and they're supporting you doing it. But I still picked it up. It's still a little variance in my routine, which routine week after week after month, just it lacks a whole lot. It does.
Yeah, man, you just got to start playing Guns N' Roses' Patience. Only got the 3 chords at E chord. You don't realize that, like how you can actually make a whole song. I mean, because that whole song, I'm pretty positive. I think I'm right. To where I think it's only like 3 chords in that whole song that they run.
And a lot of songs, especially punk rock, which I like, you can take 3 or 4 chords and make 16 songs out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they sound good. Well, it doesn't make sense, but hey, I'll learn them. I'm not complaining.
Well, it's like Neil Diamond. They're like way back then. Neil Young, all the different songs had that almost the same little. I'm not going to say the tune, but in essence, it really was kind of that same tune.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways you can play the same chord and make it sound different. People don't know. They think one chord should only sound one way. You can play it a couple different ways, and it sounds different. But, you have to pick what you can learn to stay interested in it. You can't pick some badass Ozzy Osbourne guitar solo song to try to learn because you're going to say, screw this. This is too hard. I'm done. Which I am actually trying to learn an Ozzy song. So take that with a grain of salt, but I know what I'm in for too.
The new Ozzy or back with Sabbath?
Crazy Train.
Oh, fuck.
Of course.
Hey, we'll have to do a live jam session when you actually get that one going.
I have been trying the very first part. I've got half of it down, and the second half just threw me for a loop. And today, or actually a day before today, I'm like, I'm going to try doing my fingers this way. And I played it. I'm like, holy shit, this has been 2 months in the making. Like, I am so excited that I could do this one small thing. And it makes you want to try to learn the rest of it.
Do you use finger or pick?
I mean, I use a pick, but I'm talking like the frets. But I did a different way on my fingers on the frets. And this sounds so stupid, especially for those not in the South. I think playing banjo would be awesome because there's so many things going on, so many different sounds at one time that you can make from that thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome if you really listen. If they think banjo, like, oh, damn, Deliverance redneck, but
Smell the kid.
Not saying it's not, but just listen to the sound of it, and it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't realize that they think it's just that high shrill sound, but the banjo can actually have the higher basses as well too, or the lower bass basically.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what that thing can do. It's way beyond me, but some of these instruments they just associate with rednecks or whatever. There takes a lot of skill and a lot of different sounds that they can make. I cannot describe this band and make you think of them, but it's a Canadian Scandinavian bluegrass band, but they play rock. I mean, it blows your mind. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? But they have a banjo, acoustic guitar, a stand-up bass guitar, and a little bit of drums that they can use with their feet. I mean, it sounds awesome. Like, they would not know that. If anybody's listening and you want to, look up the Dead South. They play crazy, amazing music. I love it. It is a specific type of sound, but I love it. I don't know. Which I have a lot of variance in my music too, but I got a little too excited over that. Sorry, but things I don't get to share.
You gotta have passions about something.
It is, and it's if you can get excited over small things, it can make a lot bigger difference than you think, especially when you're used to the same thing day in, day out. And there's a lot of people that don't really get to see me that excited.
I've actually heard them.
They're great. They are. And they're talented.
Yeah, in hell I'll be in good company.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, man, I've heard that one, man.
They're great. Love them. And that's something new for people to look up if they feel like it. Something different from their daily routine. You may hate it, but it's at least going to take up some of your time to be different. All right. Anyways, back to whatever subject we were on.
We're just talking about what you do to keep the craziness out.
That is it. And I've really been guilty of doing the same thing day in, day out, and I'm trying to change it up. You really have to, or you get burnt out, you get miserable. You dread what's coming next because I know what it is. It's the same thing. I do police work 3 days one week, 4 days the next. Add on an additional day for part-time every week, and then add on time that I have with my kid, which I enjoy, don't get me wrong. But the time I have to myself to do something with is very, very narrow. So I try to change that up, and it really helps.
And it's because like even on the, because I mean, I know you and I have had, quite a few discussions in regard to like mental health, so that's one of the things too that a lot of the individuals that kind of have heavier burdens with the mental health, it's because they're lacking that release when they go home or having their own hobbies, having their own time, basically. I mean, because, not many officers make time for themselves. A lot of them try to, be with family and things like that the best they can, which I'm not going to say that that's not fulfilling, but in the same sense, if you can't have that kind of release because everything that's being we see throughout the days, there has to be some kind of release, some kind of me time, coming off the job, so that's why it's so important. Especially with the dark humor.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that. And it's not that we don't care. We're making light of your worst time, but it's for us. So we don't fall in that horrible situation where we may endanger ourselves. And fulfilling time with family or whatever is not the same thing as being able to de-stress. I can find happiness, satisfaction, whatever, with being with my kid, family, whatever. But at the same time, that may not release the stress that I'm under, the things that are on my mind. I cannot, the things I see, the things that's on my mind, the thing that's just killing my mind, I can't release by playing with my kid. I love doing it. I enjoy it, but it's not releasing what I have in my mind that I can't get out of, that haunts me. That just doesn't happen. You have to find some way to do it. And I hate to say it, but the ones that are worst off, the ones that are most likely to hurt themselves, to commit suicide, you will not know it.
Right.
They will not let it be known. That's why I try to be open about my issues and what happens with me, what I feel, how I can release it. Because these that just haunt them so bad that they end up doing something desperate to get rid of it, they don't. They will keep it in their mind for so long that they just cannot handle it anymore. And you'll never know they're going through it. We had a very, very bad boat fire at a dock that housed boats that people lived on. Not just a dock itself. People lived at this dock. The entire thing burned up, and I forget how many people it killed. And our local fire department, police officers, whatever, had to go out. They're the ones that had to remove these bodies of people suffered, burnt up. Not just bodies, kids.
Yeah.
That never had a chance to live a life. That will stick in your mind. And when you try to deal with it yourself, when it bothers you and you try to deal with it by yourself and not let people know what's going on, it'll kill you. It will. And unfortunately it did. One of our local firefighters. It did. And
you look back on stuff like that though too, kind of like how like you use art as an expression. It may be like personal, reflection of things like that, just to kind of, get that out. But you look back to like children, especially, when they have like the little art class, all of a sudden they're drawing shit that, third graders shouldn't be drawing and things like that. But I mean, that image and that psychology is coming from somewhere. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with a lot of individuals that don't have that release. Like you just said, they don't show it, they don't talk about it, no nothing. And it's kind of just hidden until that day. And it's like, oh shit, I thought Michael was fine. He was all smiles all the time, but it was like he really got compression going on out there and everything else too. So it's important to actually have that release and stuff.
And I'll be honest, I don't elaborate as much as reality, but I do suffer from bipolar depression. I do have my issues. Luckily, I take medication, it helps, and I'm not advocating taking medicine and you will be great. That's not the case. You still need your coping mechanisms. It helps me immensely, but it does not alleviate every issue that I have. So I have to deal with it myself. Luckily, it helps me enough, and maybe mine's just not as severe enough that most people will never know I'm any different than any person that doesn't suffer from any kind of depression. They will not know it. I'm that level. If you work with me all the time, then eventually you'll kind of think, hey, well, where the hell did that come from? But then I'm cool again. Okay, well, maybe people just get fed up. I'm lucky. I'm extremely lucky from anybody that deals with depression or any kind of issue. I am. But if my medication's not working or they change something, it's not working, I can feel it coming on, and you can tell. It's like I'm a different person. I'm not an entirely different person. It's not like a split personality, but you can tell, damn, something's bothering him. He's not acting like he's acting, something's off, and I can't help it. I cannot hide that because it does come over me so badly. And people with actual issues, they need to know this person may not just be sad today because of something. It may be more than that. I'm sad because my dog died, and I'll eventually get over it. Being depressed over something, actual depression, is not the same thing. You may be depressed for no reason at all, and you can't control it. It's not like, okay, eventually I get over a dog, a family member, whatever incident has happened. I kind of learned to deal with it. Real depression is not the same way. You do not just learn to deal with it and get over it. You cannot get past it without help, whether it be medication, whether it be counseling, whether it be some form of hobby. It's not something you can just get past, and people need
medications don't erase the thoughts either, though. You know what I mean? So it doesn't help you deal. It may help the chemical imbalance, but it's not. You can't erase the thoughts, and it's not helping you deal with the thoughts, and that's where that other thing has to, be implemented into someone's management aspect of that, because it's like, I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but it's, I really don't hide truth from people, but a lot of us, in law enforcement, there's so much expectations, whether it's from the civilian sector, society as a whole, our departments, our brass, and then just the job itself. It's demanding. A lot of times having that demanding career, which I'm not going to say that, individuals didn't choose that, but still it's a demanding career. And then coming home, and a lot of the individuals not having that release because they don't give themselves time. That family life, a lot of times they may have a child, multiple children, some don't have any, but that family life feels just as demanding. So they never get that release like we're talking about, because they don't have anybody really to talk to or to, I'm not going to say unwind, but in essence, that's to unwind on. To be like, hey, look, I had this shit day. This is going on, because they don't want to drag their kids into it. They don't want to drag their spouses into it, or things like that. So as they're sheltering them, what's happening? That bottle's just filling up. And like you said it perfect. That, the ones that, are having those thoughts, we don't even know. And sometimes we'll never know until, unfortunately, it's that too late moment,
And you can't find it within themselves to open themselves up about what's going on. They think they need to be tough about it. They don't need to show their weakness. They don't need to show that this is bothering them. And then it ends up too late. They take their own life because they can't handle it. But at the same time, society hasn't made it okay enough for them to show, I'm not okay. This is bothering me. It's okay for it to be bothering me, and it's okay for me to express it and for me to seek help. I hate to say stuff that may be controversial, but most people will agree with me on this. There's certain situations where you see a female, just say an actress, because this is the what I'm going to make a point of. An actress on TV that's depressed and crying about something. You sympathize with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, man, she's sad. That sucks. This should happen, or I feel bad for her. Take for example, Will Smith.
Will Smith.
When
Jada was messing around with some other guy and crying, "Oh, you soft bitch," and everybody else had some stupid comments to make, like guys ain't supposed to do that.
He was devastated and crying, and people have made memes making fun of him because of it. Because he's a guy, he shouldn't be acting like that. That's stupid. You know, we can make fun of him. No, his emotions are the same as what a female's would be, and you cannot compare male and female on every aspect.
Right.
Because me being depressed and upset about something for the same thing that a female's being depressed and upset about something, why is that any different? Because I'm supposed to be tough? Because I'm supposed to be able to handle it? It's the same thing. Everybody handles stuff differently.
And it's, you know, a lot of the people that make those ignorant fucking comments about, you know, men showing their vulnerability, men crying, men doing this, doing that, are the same motherfuckers that, you know, want equality amongst gender, amongst race, and about everything else. Well, where's that said equality when it comes to, like you just pointed out, when it comes to emotion? Me expressing that I may suffer from depression, you know, whether it be every day, but not every day is not manageable, where I do have days to where it's not manageable, you know, and it's but where's that even keel of equality? But it's those same individuals that stigmatize it, yet have something stupid to say on the other side, talking about, well, we need equality across gender, across races, across cultures, blah, blah, blah. Yet, hold on, it's not right for men to be openly expressing their vulnerabilities or weaknesses or whatever the case may be. Because it's not, and that right there is the stigma. The stigma is the fact of calling it a weakness. Because it's not a weakness, you know, just because we show vulnerabilities or, you know, show things bother us. You know, I mean, it's where passion comes from.
It kind of is, but at the same time, everybody has their weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Even if they're tough in one area, eventually you take a board and you beat the shit out of one part of that board because it's the same toughness. You beat the shit out of that one area is going to get weak. It doesn't matter who you are, and that goes with the same with people.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, you beat the hell out of one aspect, they do get weak. They do get upset. It doesn't
even steal. Even still will get the little dings and rip, you know, and stuff.
It doesn't matter what material it is, how tough it is. Everybody will have their breaking point, and they're, you know, those ones that's you're a guy, you're supposed to be tough, you're supposed to be. This guy just killed himself from depression because of this that he had to deal with. Why did he not reach out for help? Because you made it. Guys should not be weak. This should not affect guys. They should be tough. But now you want to say, why did they not reach out for help?
Mm-hmm. Same thing with the departments. You know, where it's the almost every department nationwide, you're going to have it and you know, it's suck it up, man. You know, you can't deal with that. It shouldn't bother you. Hey, it's been a week. Get over it. Fucking let's go. You know, to where and that's where, you know, we're trying so hard to smash that stigma because it's the law enforcement, well, just first responders. I'm not just going to, you know, limit it to the first law enforcement, but like even with dispatch, you know, there has to be that release. There has to be that acceptance of the fact that, you know, not every day is going to be okay for us. That, you know, me pulling a baby out of the dumpster may be the same equivalent to, you know, somebody witnessing a kid get hit by a car. You know, there's going to be shit that traumatizes, you know, maybe not to the full extent to where it decapacitates you for your whole career, but, you know, it's okay to be decapacitated in the moment. I mean, it's not okay to see shit like that. I mean, it's not fucking normal, period. You know, for you to tell me that I'll just get out there and go to the next call, you know, there's no processing time there. So,
yeah, and you know, that goes back to dispatch. They answer phones, they give calls. Yeah, you know, but what about this dispatcher that just listened to somebody get murdered? They couldn't help. What about this dispatcher that's listening to this panicked, hurting family because their family member is not breathing. And you listen to them literally die on the phone and you can't do nothing about it. How is that supposed to affect you? But they're a dispatcher. All they do is answer phone.
Or there might be a little bit of life left with the caller. And then, okay, hey, I'm on scene. So dispatcher disconnects. And all of a sudden, just playing in their mind, hey, I wonder if that person lived. I wonder if that person, they don't get that resolution that we as officers or EMTs or firefighters may get because we're directly there on the scene. And even if we see someone die, at least we have that resolution. We know that outcome. Opposed to just sending somebody out there and hearing how frantic that call was and me still being able to maintain my composure while listening to this frantic individual, collecting all relevant information. Are they armed? They had a prior heart attack, or they taking medication so that I'm able to pass that on to the next person. It's so much going on there. And then for all of that to go on in just one call and not have that resolution, I can't even pretend to begin to fathom what a dispatcher, goes through in a single day, let alone an hour.
Well, and I'll multiply this. If your dispatcher cares about her officers, especially with a department like mine, your dispatcher cares about your officer. If a half-assed dispatcher, if they don't, they need to get their ass out. But now you've got a dispatcher playing in their mind what they've heard on this call, what the issue is, the emotions that they feel. You hear all this and it plays in your mind. But then when something bad happens, you get this officer back at the police department that you care about, and you hear the emotion in his voice, how upset he is, what he's seen. Now that is multiplying on top of what they've already felt.
Right.
And it does. Any good dispatcher, it will affect them. It will hurt them knowing their officer is upset because something happened and they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it should be only normal as well, too. You know what I mean? It's like, again, but then if it's again, going back to where, well, hey, what if it was a male dispatch opposed to a female? It goes on every role. I don't care where you're at as far as that whole gender of who's supposed to be emotional and who's not supposed to be, who's supposed to show, things get to you, who should, it's stigmatizing.
It is. And it's, in all honesty, and most people agree with me this, it's harder to show that kind of emotion for a male to another male. It is. And it's that thing. Hey, guys are not supposed to feel like this, so guys should not show those weaknesses and those emotions to another guy. If that could end and they could show that kind of emotion to their male friends, that may very well help.
Have a Tupperware party in the man cave.
But a lot of guys, when they get married or whatever, they do kind of let go of all the female friends they may have had. Now all they have is guy friends, which may be fine, but you cannot release the same kind of emotion to them. A lot of people with their close families, they feel they can't release that kind of emotion to them because they're too close, and you don't want them to know, to visualize, to have to deal with the bad stuff you have. You want to hide it from them. So now what do? The worst possible thing you can do is all they can eventually come to the conclusion.
Well, on top of that as well, too, you take the ones that, ultimately were outcasts in their family. And then, now I'm supposed to come into you and, console you to, talk about the things that are bothering me. And I'm not going to say it becomes impossible, but to so many, it does feel like it's impossible. So you're not going to understand. You're just going to think that this is my crutch or this is a direct result of, something else, all this other little BS. So.
Well, and, me and you have talked several times, and how my personality, how I've talked, to me. And it's kind of the same way with me.
A night rider.
But me and you talked the other week, and you kind of got to see some of that emotion that I don't let on to. Stuff that was tough for me to talk about.
Chief said,
I do have to pause. I do have to compose myself over, and I'm guilty of the same thing. I do have some outlets. I'm lucky with that. But at the same time, I'm guilty of the same thing. I feel like I can't release certain emotions under certain circumstances. You feel like you're vulnerable and you feel like you're weak. And I fully understand that mentality. It sucks. It's negative. It hurts you in the end. But I can understand where it comes from. But I do know that I need certain outlets to get that out. And luckily, I do have some outlets that I can make that happen with.
I mean, I think that's why they armed us with billy clubs. Just kidding. Just kidding. I am not encouraging brutality.
We'll say tasers. Tasers sound better.
Yeah, it's softer. It's a shocking experience.
There's one guy that was running and cracked his eye socket, but that's on him. He chose to run.
I know, right? Oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it, and it's hard to get through to some people. And like I said, it's the ones that have stuff on their mind that you never know that you end up hearing what they did, and you're like, man, why do they not reach out for help? And it's all these things we talked about. But what do you do to get it through that it is okay to be like that? It is okay to show this kind of I went to a counselor, which was actually by mistake. I go to a psychiatrist normally I go to every month. It's been an issue.
Hold on. What do you mean by by mistake?
Well, that's what I was getting at. I go to I was to a psychiatrist every month. There's been a very, very big issue for about 5 months because my doctor quit. And but that's beside the point. So I was trying to look for a new doctor. I thought it was a psychiatrist. It ended up being a counselor, which I don't need as much as I do a psychiatrist.
Now, I mean, can I ask you? I mean, you don't have to answer this, but I just, with the effects of it and things like that, because I personally think it plays a large role, whether it be with us law enforcement, veterans, first responders in general. Talking to a counselor, that's why I'm encouraging peer support so much. Now, as your counselor, have they had the effects, or I'm not going to say necessarily the background, but the background to be able to relate to where, I mean, you may experience some things, whether it's in your personal life or on the job, that not everybody's going to be able to relate to, but having a background that is similar, at least it's more of I can understand why you feel this way, or I can imagine going through that. I mean, did they have background relatable, or?
There's two truths to that. One, I need a psychiatrist more than I need a counselor because I have bipolar disorder. That is something that does need medication to try to level out, to try to control. Medication is not the only thing you need. So I was more concerned with trying to get into a psychiatrist than I was continuing the counseling. And like I said, I was more concerned with that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't benefit me, but I did notice this. In my life, compared to a lot of people's lives, I have not had that much of a mentally and emotionally challenging life. I've had it pretty good. I have. My bipolar, I fully believe, is mainly based on hereditary, which she was never diagnosed, but I believe my mom had it. Looking back, she passed away when I was 18, and it's crazy to think about. That was half of my life ago that she passed away. That really makes it, in a perspective, how long she's been gone. But she was never diagnosed with it. But I believe she was, and I always knew growing up something didn't feel right. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't uncontrollable, but something just felt off, and that ended up being, bipolar disorder. So one, I was more concerned with getting back into a psychiatrist than the medication because I know how I was off the medication years and years ago, and it's a very, very dark place that you cannot get out of with just counseling. You need more than that. But I did notice when I only went one time, I realized what it was, and I knew I needed to get back into a psychiatrist first, more importantly. And I do kind of think I do need some counseling on certain things because my mom was a big issue when she was asking me what was going on. I told her my life, this. But then when my mom came into play, it really hit me, and it was one of those, like me and you talked, I had to stop and consciously place my words with what I was trying to say to maintain composure. And, albeit not a devastating necessarily part of my life, an emotional one for sure, but that did kick up a lot of emotions that I really don't think about on a daily basis. So I'm not saying I don't need it, that I shouldn't go back, which is what we're preaching, but I just needed to get back in with a psychiatrist first and then outreach from there. But that did kind of make me realize some emotion I've had from her. I've kind of, it's come to fruition several times with certain people that I feel comfortable with talking about. But with a stranger, that shouldn't have been that way with me, and it was. So that did tell me I do have some pent up emotions that I do need to deal with. And that comes with certain people with depression. They may not realize the same thing.
Right. Well, a lot of times too, it goes like you and I spoke about before, just because we've seen something today that may be weighing heavy on our minds and is affecting us more than, we think it should, a lot of times it's because there's an underlying cause that could have been 5, 10, 15, a lifetime ago for us that we just never really accepted, dealt with, never realized how much it really affected us. And that's why a lot of times when we start talking about those moments, we try to sway away from that. And anytime that happens in our lives that, we're starting to dig in to find out that underlying cause or to find out that why, how, when, that's the ones we need to focus on, the ones that make us the most uncomfortable, because it's the ones that make us feel most uncomfortable are probably the underlying cause of why here today, what I just seen today affected me, what I seen yesterday affected me, or, the whole progression or digression of what it is that I'm going through.
It is, and I hate to do this, I do. But something, man, you talked about, and it's directly related to my bipolar. I believe I'm not using it as an excuse, but it can really affect you without knowing it. I can't go into what I was really wanting to. I just can't. But it's things that bother you in your life that you don't realize how much it bothers you until you start talking to somebody about it, and then you feel it really coming up. Knowing it bothers you and feeling those emotions are two different things. And what I was going to try to talk about, and I can't at the moment, but was what me and you discussed about my best friend and
the text and all that stuff. And yeah, we don't have to go in. I mean, it's the don't try to force something that's going to kind of make you uncomfortable. I mean, it'll come in due time when you are ready to be comfortable about that. But I mean, I do remember that phone call, and you and I had a pretty deep conversation about that as well too. And it are those moments though that kind of they're there for a reason, burnt into our memories, burnt into our souls, basically, for a reason. And it's the people are like, oh, just deal, kind of going back to this whole stigma aspect of it. It's the outsiders telling us, fucking deal with it. And it's like, no, you can't force something like that, because that's something that's going to have to come in time, because especially if we've bottled something up for so fucking long. and then all of a sudden we get forced to try to deal with it right here and now, it's going to be a nightmare. I mean, it's going to be a fucking nightmare. It really is. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but that's something that has to come in time when, sometimes we can talk about it in passing because it's just we're not really kind of diving in on it. But then, when you start talking about certain aspects of it, you really start focusing on that day, that moment, and how it played its effect on you. It can do more damage talking about certain things when it's forced than if we do it in good time and when we're comfortable.
Yeah, and most all these people say just deal with it, or why is it bothering you that much? It shouldn't bother you much. I guarantee you, these same people have not dealt with the same shit that you're going through. They've had a great, happy life, and they have not had to see or deal with the stuff you have. Well, I had this situation, and I'm okay with it. That's not, number one, you're not the same person as I am. You can handle stuff differently. And number two, you lost a close family member to you. I saw somebody with their head blown off. Now, how do you compare those two?
You can't. You can't.
But they don't view it as that, and it, like I know this specific subject bothers me. There are things I'm upset about that I don't like, but that's it. I know that's not a good time in my life. But when I try to relay it to certain people in a certain way, then it comes up, holy shit, this bothers me more than I realized. I knew it did, but when I feel these actual emotions coming up, I'm like, holy hell, I didn't realize this was in the back of my mind as bad as it is. And it somehow you got to figure out what those things are and try to deal with it. And it's hard as hell to do it when you don't realize what they are. And that's where counseling comes into play, because I started talking to her and that one subject come up, and I'm like blindsided, like, damn, I can't even hardly talk about this subject. I know what it is. I know how I felt at the time, but I didn't realize these emotions were still there about it.
I'm sure her radar went off too, because it's in like behavioral psychology and stuff like that is one of the things we're trained on, is the fact that people's mannerisms, when they start shifting around, start getting uncomfortable, you hit that spot that needs to be focused on. But again, you can't force somebody to talk about it, because you can do more damage than you can good. But we know in the back of our mind, okay, hey, this is the moment. We can kind of hint around and kind of like lead back to it again, like, oh, hey, you want to talk about this again? But it's the treading pretty deep, because it's one of them things to where, again, one person's loss is not going to be the same magnitude as another's that dealt with the same thing. Someone can lose their cat, and it's going to be the same devastation as if they just lost their child, and that's why, like with suicide, suicide ranks the highest amongst wealthy individuals that from youth up until, their time now, that's all they had was wealth. Everything I'm not going to say handed to them, because I mean, to maintain wealth, it does take work. But when they lose that, they've never been without, and they don't know how to live without. And it's very hard. It's triggering for them. And people are like, oh yeah, that's nothing, but that's the reality. That's where the highest suicide rates today, and it's been like that for over 15 years. It's amongst wealthy that lose stuff. They don't know how to. They think life's over because they don't have $1 anymore.
I'll add to that. I have always worked for what I had. I have always been check to check. When I was about 26, I had my own house, which was being paid for, which my utilities, bill, stuff like that was being paid by my girlfriend at the time. We lived together. I had bought a house basically for us, and I was paying the mortgage. Well, she and it's kind of a funny part now, but she ended up running off with a state trooper and having a baby 8 months later. So do that math.
8 months later.
But I ended up getting a what's the word I'm looking for? An estate settlement from a relative I never had anything to do with. But I was able to pay off my house. I was able to buy whatever I wanted.
Does they come back like, hey, that really wasn't you? That was the other John Hall.
Yeah, but I had a truck paid off. I had a Mustang, a supercharged Mustang paid off. I had a turbo car paid off. I had a sport bike paid off. I was settled. I had no financial issues at all. And this is when my bipolar started acting up, and I got to the point where everything was paid for. I had no financial concerns whatsoever, and I was more miserable than I had ever been. That money did not make up for the mental issues I was having.
Well, a lot of times, and the flip side of that psychology aspect of it is the fact that you were actually accomplishing something by working, even though you were living paycheck. I'm not saying you were, but a lot of individuals that live paycheck to paycheck, it's fulfilling for them because at least they can see that they put in that work and they feel accomplished. That, oh, hey, at least this work right here, even though I have a couple pennies to scrape together now, at least I know that, hey, I have this house, I have this car, I have this, I have that. I have this. When everything was paid off, you're just like, fuck, what am I doing? So,
yeah, it's that feeling, hey, I have this because of me, and I have a extremely modest life now compared to then because of life. Plenty of things that have happened since then. And yeah, I wish I had now what I had then in the state that I'm in, mentally. But at the same time, I feel better mentally now than I did when I had everything because I have myself and my mind in order where I didn't then. And I didn't know what was going on or how to fix it. And, so wealth and appearances does not necessarily make happiness and satisfaction. It all starts here. It starts with the person and what issues they may or may not have to start with that you can't see.
100%. And I just made a post the other day about about some sitcoms that really aren't like known by many, but BritBox has this one. It's called Keeping Up Appearances. It's a little British show and stuff like that. But that's the whole thing. Is like, she's always trying to make everyone think that she's wealthy and that the money's everything and all this other good stuff too. And it's comical in essence. Because of how individuals they do that. They got to have the nice cars, nice houses, and think that, oh, hey, here I am. To where when it's the being without, it's kind of like, oh, fuck, what's this? This ain't life.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for a lot of people to even understand why, but look at some of these celebrities that you think are fine that have committed suicide. One that I've very well relate to is Robin Williams. His entire life, he's this happy person. He makes people laugh. He finds enjoyment in it. But in his own life, he was struggling. He didn't know how to deal with issues in his own life, even though he was making everybody else feel better. And that's a big thing. The people that
make other people laugh and smile, but he couldn't make himself laugh or smile.
Because you know how it feels and you want others to feel better. Mm-hmm. And if you really know mental issues and emotions and stuff, you can kind of tell some people because people don't notice it about me, but that's one of my biggest things. I try to be entertaining. I try to make people laugh. I try to be goofy when I can because I want them to feel better than I have in the past, and I know how it feels. I don't want them to have to go through the same thing. And if I can make them laugh, if I can listen to their issues and try to give them help to make it better, I will. And they will never know the issues that I deal with on my own.
That's 100%. Because I was the same way, like all through school and stuff like that. I was like a class clown, but people didn't know like the traumas I went through at home. you know, but like that was my release, making the other people feel good because I don't want anybody else to have to feel the shit that I went through, you know. And it was, but I mean, we all have that little thing in us, and it's like, you know, with Robin Williams, you know, he wouldn't even take a role unless he could relate to it personally, and that's why when you go back and you look at every movie he starred in, and you start like, you know, dissecting that, and it's like, oh shit, he was telling us this whole time that fucking he's miserable, you know.
Yeah, and you can't always see that depression because there's a video, Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park. You know, there's more to that with Chris Cornell because that also committed suicide. They were very, very good friends, but there's a video of him, and I can relate. He's laughing. He's Chester laughing. He's cutting up, and this was very, very, very maybe the day before he committed suicide. He looked like the same person, and I can laugh with you right now, and when we get off here, I can be depressed. My issues will get to me, but you see me laughing, but when I'm on my own, everything hits me. And I'm not saying it does. I mean, I'm in a good place, but that's the point I'm making. You can see somebody laughing, cutting up. You can't see what's on.
Michael Knight.
But you can't see what's on their mind and what's bothering them, and then what's going to multiply in their mind when they're to themselves and on their own. You can't. I wish you could. It would make, you know, so many things so much better, but you can't.
Well, that's the same thing too. Like, you know, at the station, you know, I don't give a fuck if it's a station of 10 opposed to one of, you know, 50 or any, like the larger agencies and things like that. You know, in a roll call, just looking around the room, you're not going to know what, you know, one brother or sister is going through to the next, or how something's affecting one brother or sister to the next. You know, it's I'm not going to say things become stagnant, but, you know, a complacency happens during roll call, you know, and roll call should be to where that should be the biggest peer support meeting of anywhere. You know, it's something that shouldn't have to be asked for, you know. But then again, it's going to go to that part to where it's going to be those individuals afraid to speak up because of that stigma that, you know, it's not okay for, I'm not going to say it's not okay, but, you know, men aren't supposed to show weakness or vulnerability and all that other little riffraff or whatever.
Oh, that's a perfect example. Say roll call. Me and my partner went and dealt with this brutal, gory, you know, disturbing call yesterday. It will affect me differently than it will him. Mm-hmm. We saw the exact same thing. We went through exact same situation, but it will affect one more than the other. And people
that's
don't.
That's going to be 100% of the time, almost on every call, you know, and it's, you know, again, going back to, you know, what we've spoken about before so many times, the fact that, you know, somebody seeing one thing can traumatize them more than somebody seeing the most gruesome, horrific thing that anybody can imagine, you know, so.
Yeah, you can't. And one big thing that does change, though, and I will say this about my chief that retired, he absolutely been through and did a lot worse things with the military than I will probably ever go through. And he handles them appearance-wise, and as far as I've ever known him, he handles them really well. So it's easy for him to say, why is this bothering you? Why, you know, why whatever? You know, this shouldn't bother you. I've done this and I'm fine with it. But he didn't. He would talk to you. He would sympathize. He would understand, you know, the things that was going on and why you were feeling like that. When it was just as easy to say, hey, I've done this and this and this, and I've seen this. This shouldn't bother you.
Right.
But he was understanding, and that meant a whole lot.
It goes a long way, too. You know what I mean? It actually helps with that next time that somebody may need something to talk or someone to talk to. You know what I mean? Especially being the brass. You know, superiors are like sometimes are the hardest ones to disclose things that bother us, but when you have individuals like your, chief that have that open door to where, hey, I understand, come and talk to me. It's needed everywhere. It really is.
Yeah, and a lot of that brass, not all. I mean, there's a lot that's not, but at the same time, a lot of that brass has the bigger, better, badder attitude. But you have to get on the same level as your officers and understand what they're going through. Just because you saw this and you were fine with it doesn't mean they saw the same thing and they're fine with it. And their mental health and their ability to deal with stuff should be your priority on many levels.
Now you got your brass, so you can actually start being that example for us.
Yeah. And we obviously know that I have plenty of experience of understanding.
already know. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I mean, I care about my people. I care about what they have to say, how they're dealing with stuff. And because I may deal with the situation better, I understand that you may not, and try to get you into a place that you need to be. But I've always been like that. I've always treated people one of two ways: how I want to be treated, or how you will allow me to treat you.
How you deserve it.
The part there, especially with people that you deal with on work that's not with you, means a lot of difference. I can't go up and treat somebody the way I want to be treated when they're being an absolute asshole to me and giving me attitude and trying to run me over. Now number one is void. We're going to number two. But still,
somebody only has we only have so many cheeks to turn.
Exactly. There's two. That's my two. But you still do try to act within reason. There's been people that's given me attitude I can't be nice to, but at the end of it, they're apologizing to me because of the way I did treat them, the points that I made, rather than going up there and shooing their ass into the ground. And here's a good example. I stopped a guy one day for speeding. I pulled him over. He was all right. But asked for his ID. He starts to give it to me, and he stops. So why did you pull me over? I said, because you were doing this mile an hour and this mile
an hour. What's your badge number?
Don't even get me started. But well, everybody speeds there. No shit. Why do you think I was sitting there? I get his ID. I run it. I come back. I don't write him a ticket. And I said, why are you getting an attitude with me? What do you mean? I said, I've been as nice and laid back as I can with you, but you're giving me this whole attitude. I said, what's the deal with that? Well, you pulled me over before and searched my car. Cool. Who's you with? And he told me. I was like, well, obviously I searched it because I know who he is. But I said, did I treat you right? He said, what do you mean? I said, was I nice? Was I polite to you? Was I nice to you? I said, did I treat you, like a person? He said, well, yeah. Well, then why are you giving me this attitude? Man, I'm sorry, just this and this and that. He apologized. We were cool. I stopped him again not long after that for speeding in a different spot. I went back and I wrote him a ticket. Obviously, I've already gave him a warning, so I wrote him a ticket. I because of the way I treated him the first time, I go back up. I'm like, look, I'm writing you a citation for the speed. He's like, yeah, I understand. Hey, me and her just went up here. We got some food. You can have some of it if you want it. Of course, I didn't take it, but because of the way I treated him the first time, he was cool with me. He didn't have an issue with it. He was understanding. Versus if I had been an absolute dickhead to him, and I probably would have been justified the first time, I might have had my hands full the second time.
Right.
But it's because the way I treated him, the way I talked to him, and the way I made my points, which were good points, and I made him understand it. So demeanor and the way you can talk to people mean a whole lot in the future. Even, at the time especially, but it may mean that in the future too. Because had I been a dick to him versus being the way I was, that may make the difference between him seeing me getting my ass whipped on the side of the road and coming to help me, or stopping on the side of the road and watching the entertainment.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with with demeanor. If you and I go on a call together, and you're the calm, cool, and collect, you got everything under wraps, and I come strolling in, get on the ground, and start having that asshole mentality. It could take something that you already had under control and just, flip that whole scene to be, something completely horrible.
Oh my God! If Kayla's watching, all I got to say is Murphy, and she's gonna die laughing. But he was that guy. I had a situation. It was a fight at a bar outside. I show up, and I do what is an aggressor, jumping at somebody else. So I go, I get his info, and I turn around to go to my car. This dumbass gave me his right name, his correct date of birth, and when I turn around, he takes off running. Okay, so we run from this bar to a repair shop that's just very, very, very close to it. We run around this stack of tires. He goes back to the bar, and he gets on the ground. I'm like, what in the shit are you doing? So I obviously handcuff him, I arrest him, I get him back to my car. And as I'm getting back to the car, this other guy shows up, and next thing I know, all hell's breaking loose again because of him. I had it under control. I get this guy in the car. She sees it. But I get this guy in the car, and we're good. But he shows up, and now all of a sudden, he's pissed everybody off. I'm like, and it's one of these things that I've told her too. Who's working the next city over? This guy. Never mind. I will handle this battle royal by myself before he comes and helps me.
It doesn't, but I mean, and it's the same though as well. Like on this side than it is on the other side. You know what I mean? Kind of how you were just, giving an example about when you pulled the kid over and how respectful you were. It's the same thing with officers. If it's you're riding with a partner for so long, or you get, partnered up with somebody that, you've had them just shit shows with every other time you've been on that call. It's like, I'm not fucking going there. I'm off. You know what I mean? But I mean, seriously, it is. It's the welcome to the shit show.
And that has a very, very big impact on your backup for the next
safety. I mean, it's
city, the next county. Yeah. Oh shit. He needs help. Yeah, I'm gonna go help him. And bathroom break and finish my coffee.
25 miles an hour to 45.
Yeah, we don't want to speed. But it does. It makes a big difference. And some people just, it doesn't click. But hey, you get what you pay for. I mean, I hate it, but you do.
100% of the time. You get what you get.
Yes.
You get what you give, rather.
But some people don't realize that. I'm going to give whatever the hell I want to give, but I expect what I expect back.
I don't know why they took away those taser batons. You don't see them around much anymore. Them taser batons were the greatest, man.
Cattle prod.
Yeah, the cattle prod baton. They were the greatest, man.
I wish we had these. We got the new version, which is the same thing as the old version, but the next city over got them, the new tasers. The tasers is one shot.
Yeah.
You pull that trigger, it's one shot. You miss, either you're screwed or you've got to take that cartridge out, put another one in, aim, hope you have enough time.
If you're good enough, you can kind of calibrate the charge though to kind of get that one shot. Use it a couple times, but ish.
If you hit that one shot, yeah, it's 5 seconds. Something happens. It's not enough. They try to fight again, hit it again, 5 seconds. But
then the hooks have to go into the right spot. If you don't get it to where it's really doing a shock, it's pointless.
Doesn't make the right contact, it won't work. If it doesn't go through thick clothing, it doesn't work. There's a bunch of fails with tasers that people, why didn't they use a taser? Well, when you're 2 feet from this person, it's not effective, but you can't relay that to them. But there's a new one that has 2 shots. You can literally shoot 2 people. You can shoot one person fighting, aim over here and shoot the other person, tase both of them. Now, both people, they're neutralized. You shoot one person that misses. Now you have a second chance to shoot that person right away with it. And dude, I love those.
Wait till they come out with the semi-automatic tasers.
Kind of. But you know, the bad part with the standard, the traditional, is you only have that one shot. To try to make another shot, you literally have to take your taser, take the cartridge out of it, get the other cartridge from wherever you may be able to store it, because it's not in a holder. Like me, I would have to unzip my pouch, grab it, get it out, plug it in, and now I have to try to shoot them again. And I guarantee you, they are nowhere in the same situation now that they were when I first tried.
What's on your fingers?
Probably on my ass, trying to beat my ass at this point.
What's on your fingers?
It's a little. They go on a mask that I have, but it's just kind of like a nervous stress relief kind of twisty thing at the moment.
Awesome.
But
little fidget spinners.
It is. It's a cheap ass fidget spinner for me. I didn't even know you could see that, but yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting here twisting it, entertaining.
Well, I just happened to see it when you reached up. I happened to see it, like caught a glimpse of it.
Oh, I also have these that I've been using on some masks. It's little sprockets, and they're fun to just sit here and piddle with. But yeah, you caught me. You caught me.
It happens. I just happened to catch a glimpse of it.
Yeah, it's a cheap man's fidget spinner. I don't even realize I'm doing it part of the time. It's just a thing. But
that's the thing though too. That kind of going back to the whole taser aspect of stuff. You know, especially with the time of the year we're in right now. You know, with winter, with everybody wearing those heavy winter coats. You know, a lot of people, like civilian sector, they don't realize, like, you know, if I got to make a call right now on if I'm going to, you know, deploy taser or, you know, whatever I have in my arsenal at the time, you know, and I see somebody's wearing a heavy coat, maybe even a hoodie underneath that big heavy winter coat, I'm putting you down. I mean, the taser's not going to be effective 9 times out of 10.
Here's a weird example. The guy that really one of my worst experiences could possibly. I went up to him and I was within reaching distance of him, and I saw his hand go back. I was like, oh shit, he's trying to hit me. And I just threw it. You know, I blocked a couple of hits and he takes off running. And I grab my taser, I follow him, and I tase him running. And entertainingly enough, and luckily my partner had just showed up and he saw it, the guy was running, his feet stopped, went up over his head, and went face first into the asphalt.
Scorpion.
It literally cracked his eye socket. He hit so hard. But, you know, like we just said, you pay for what you give. And he didn't try to hit me that first time. He had a rock the size of a brick.
I remember you telling me about that. Like, you didn't realize it until after you went back to where it started at.
But what I didn't tell you is that it was wintertime. He had a jacket on. But when we went searching him, he had newspaper stuffed into his jacket as insulation. So it is dumb luck, number one, that I blocked that hit because I didn't see it coming. And number two, it's dumb luck that those prongs made enough contact to do what it did between his jacket and those newspapers.
See, that's what somebody like actually has, and that's where, you know, you can kind of go with intent. You know, somebody knew that they were going to be on the run and were like protecting themselves in case taser was deployed or anything else. So, yeah, you know, and it's people don't understand. You know, that taser does fail. It fails a lot. It works a lot, but it does fail a lot. And when it does, number one, you have taken up the time to use that taser, then realize it fails. Now you've got to figure out what you need to do. So you've basically wasted that time to react. And now you have to figure out what you need to do to neutralize the situation. And obviously, cattle prod.
Hey, you know, what's that back in the WWF wrestling days, the Mountie?
Yeah.
Cattle prod, yeah. But now you've got to mentally think about, oh shit, this didn't work. What do I need to do now to address the situation accordingly? And it's obviously going to be something more severe than what you just tried. But hey, why didn't you tase him? Well, shit, I tried.
How much more time you have?
I'm actually pretty close to it. I've got my charger plugged up, but it's not working. It's on 3%. It started at 1%.
Well, I know when you give me that little time frame when I was kind of like watching it for you, I know.
I got to get a new charger. I've got one of those really long cords, and they wear out, and they just don't charge good. So it's literally dropped 2% since it's been plugged up.
It drained it rather than charging it.
I thought it was plugged up the entire time until I looked at it and it beat. I was like, oh. I moved it literally like a centimeter, and then it said it was charging, and it still does, but it's not.
I'll shoot you over that link for Chris's show tonight too, if you find time to hop on there.
Yeah,
that way if you're on a good call or something like that, or you got a comical call to entertain us with, you can just jump on.
I love being on with Chris. He's an awesome guy. He's entertaining, and he adds plenty of good stuff to it. And if I can, I will. If not, I will. I'm definitely going to try for tomorrow. My kiddo should be asleep by then, and I should have some time to get in, depending on what kind of rest I get in tonight with working night shift and day shift. It depends on how much my body hates me that day.
Yeah, tomorrow it should last a pretty good ways tomorrow. I got so many different guests on. Ray Bashir's, David Lee, Chad, Dom, Chris is going to be on. Jason Harney. So
I might feel claustrophobic in this little area here. I'm gonna try. If I can, I'll get on later tonight. If not, I definitely want to try for tomorrow because I do like being on with other people. I have very limited time, but I'm gonna try to make time for it. And I like being on. Me and you talk for what, an hour or more?
Hour and a half. Yeah, we're on an hour and a half now.
Well, I mean, the last time we were on the phone.
Oh yeah.
Not even a cast, just on the phone. And I do like talking. It's hard for me to kind of commit sometimes with what I work and what I have going on, but I'm definitely going to try to. I will. To the other people, I love that. Chris, me and him's always had good conversations.
Tomorrow will be a good one. But with you saying that about when you did give me a call and stuff like that, don't ever hesitate, man. I mean, even outside of like this show stuff, I mean, don't ever hesitate to reach out, man, just to kind of chat or just go over some shit.
I enjoyed it. I didn't plan on that, but once stuff starts coming out, just like tonight, I didn't plan on an hour and a half, but here we are.
Yes, I'll make it happen. I'll put it together as soon. Then I was like, I started putting everything together. I'm like, fuck, I forgot about the Central Time aspect. I'm like, shit, he's an hour behind me. I was about to start like right now, and it was like, oh shit, he's still got to get a little bit of time.
That confuses me. That's why I always say my time.
But I've learned to just say, hey, your time from now on. I just make it your time regardless. That way, it's hey, take an hour off, or because with Chris, quite a few, because Ray and they're down in Texas, so they're just an hour as well behind. But Chris is 3 hours behind me. So like his 1900, I'm sitting here at 2200. And it's like,
well, what's crazy is where I work. It's literally like a 20-minute difference, and you're in an entire different time zone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And if you don't have your phone set right where I work and where my kid lives, your phone is so close it will flip flop between time zones if you don't have it set to one specific.
Yeah, because you can put like the carrier's time or whatever, and it'll just go as you're like actually traveling back and forth.
Oh yeah. Try having your phone set at 1 o'clock, and it's 12:59. Now all of a sudden it changes time zones and it skips your entire alarm.
You shut it up. That's crazy there.
Why was you late? Well, my phone skipped the time zone.
And that's an excuse you don't hear very often.
That's not. But Oh, I've enjoyed being on, and like I said, I'll either later on or tomorrow. I'm definitely going to try to be on. I really am.
I'll send you over the link here as soon as we get off here. Then I'll send you tomorrow. I'll email you tomorrow's link as well.
That sounds great.
All right, man. Well, stay safe and stay blessed in all things, brother.
Yes, sir. We'll see you, bud.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon. Give me a call later on if you want.
All right, bud. We'll see.